Going to hear from Statesman Academy alumna Representative Robin Lundstrom of Arkansas and Jerry Cox, who's the president of Family Council in Arkansas. Our CEO, Craig DeRoche, interviewed Robin and Jerry shortly after Arkansas became the first state in the nation to pass legislation that protects children from so-called gender reassignment by surgical and medical experimentation. Representative Lundstrom is an alumna of Family Policy Foundation Statesman Academy, and she authored this groundbreaking legislation. The Family Council was instrumental to its passage. I know you'll enjoy hearing from Robin and Jerry on this important law, which we hope will be replicated in many states in the coming year. But before we do that, I know some of you are not familiar with our Statesman Academy. It's the premier training program of Family Policy Foundation that equips Christian state legislators to winsomely and effectively champion their values in elected office. Right now, we're going to share a short video that better describes this key program of our ministry.
About 5 years after Jim stepped into the state Senate seat, he got orders to deploy to Afghanistan. So Jim said, someone needs to fill my seat while I'm gone. You should do it. You should run for that. I thought, you've lost your mind, because at that time we had an infant and then two that were like 4 and under. And I did not think that the Lord would call me to run, but he did. As it turned out, it was really a life-changing experience. We live in a very divisive time, very politically charged time, one in which our Christian values and really traditional morality is being dumbed down or ignored altogether. Men and women serving in elected office who have a Christian worldview are few and far between in many cases, and that can be a lonely place. They have a real challenge, really an uphill battle, I think. Number one, to maintain their Christian values and their morality, and then also reflect those in the policies that they vote for and that their legislatures ultimately pass. And we want to help equip them, give them the resources and the tools necessary to be effective Christian statesmen in their state capitals. When I served for a short time in the Indiana State House, I remember feeling like I want to speak out. You know, I know what's right on this policy topic, but I feel less sure of how to articulate it well. And so I think that's where our Statesman Academy comes in, because we're that resource that so many of these legislators are looking for that they didn't even know was available. Statesman Academy is not just a one-week training. We start there, but where we go from there is, I think, even more important, and that is through our alumni community. Through that community, our statesmen are continually resourced with the tools that they need to be successful. They're given model legislation, talking points, media training, statistics and research, real things that they can use in their offices to advance the goals and the values that we all agree on. The Statesman Academy up to this point has been able to train 25 to 30 men and women each year. We would love to grow that number. That is going to multiply into effective policies, God-honoring policies. If they're all pursuing those biblical values through the work that they do, I think ultimately God is going to be honored and His will is going to be done on earth as it is in heaven.
President and CEO of the Family Policy Alliance, located in Colorado Springs, and I welcome you to this just really important and relevant conversation that we're going to have today about the Arkansas SAFE Act. And I'd like to remind you that you can share, like, and comment below. We encourage you to do that. The Arkansas SAFE Act protects minors from dangerous transgender medical interventions like puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and the removal and alteration of healthy body parts. Folks, we don't let our kids buy cough syrup. We don't let them get tattoos on their body or their face. We don't let them go fight wars or smoke cigarettes. But unfortunately, we've come to a time in our country where we have to protect them from life-altering surgeries and medications that are experimental at best. This is the first law of its kind in the country, and it's had a dramatic time getting into law. And we'll get into that today. I'd first like to introduce Arkansas State Representative Robin Lundstrom. Rep. Lundstrom was the primary bill sponsor for the SAFE Act in Arkansas House of Representatives. She's also an alumni of our sister organization, Family Policy Foundation Statesman Academy, the elite training program for Christian legislators in America. In addition to her public service, Rep. Lundstrom is a small business owner, holds a doctorate in health sciences, and is a former assistant professor at John Brown University. And she even has been given an award by the Little Rock Division of the FBI for her work enhancing law enforcement partnerships in Northwest Arkansas and serving as an advocate for youth programs. And she has received the Power of Courage Award for outstanding service, untiring dedication, and unyielding commitment to Christian values in legislation from the Family Council of Arkansas. And speaking of that Family Council in Arkansas, we are joined today by its founder and president, Jerry Cox. He began the Family Council in 1989 after a successful effort to amend the Arkansas Constitution to prevent the use of public funds for abortions. In 2004, he spearheaded the successful effort to amend the Arkansas Constitution to define marriage as the union of one man and one woman. In 2008, Jerry led a successful effort to pass the Arkansas Adoption and Foster Care Act. He and his wife reside in Little Rock. They have 4 sons, and we're grateful for the friendship with the Family Council here at the Family Policy Alliance. So to get it started, Rep. Lundstrom, we're talking about the Arkansas SAFE Act. And for our friends at home, this was the bill that Rep. Lundstrom wrote and sponsored. And of course, there's plenty of others that joined her in this path. It was a team effort, but she was really the captain for a lot of this. Why did you choose to sponsor it? And why was something like the SAFE Act needed today?
Well, it definitely was a team effort, and I'm thankful that I had a great team of House and senators, and my senator sponsor was Alan Clark, and Family Council was a huge help. This has been a 7-month process. This wasn't something we just woke up and said, oh, let's do this, because this was a very tightly crafted bill, and this bill specifically prohibits sex change procedures on minors, both surgically and chemically, and we wanted to make sure that the bill stayed on the subject and didn't venture in, didn't take away any health care, didn't take away any counseling. It doesn't do any of those things because kids need those things. And thankfully, many of my colleagues, 72 of them, agreed in the House, and a lot of them agreed in the Senate, and now it has become law. It's been a wild ride getting here. Never expected the governor to veto it, and then we overrode the veto. So I'm very thankful that it was a team effort, and we've had a lot of adolescent psychiatrists work with us and pediatricians as well. So here we are.
Well, it's an amazing place that and here we are, and it took a lot of work to get here from a policy standpoint as well, but culturally. Things have changed where we have to work on a bill like this, something that should be innate or intuitive, Jerry. And could you place this in context? Since you've been working in this space for decades, what got us to the place in America where we're needing this kind of law? And what are the efforts that you all looked at over the past few years to get to this point?
You know, when I look at the Obergefell decision that legalized same-sex marriage, we said back then that would be a wrecking ball that would just knock down a big wall there and allow all this other nonsense to come pouring in. And so that's exactly what has happened, because what we have now is we have the need for a law like this that prevents parents from trying to change their little boys into girls and little girls into boys. But we also have the female sports issue and other things that have come on the heels of that. And so it's just the progression of degeneration of our society. We've been watching it for a long time, and we're on the cusp of that right now, and we have to do everything we can to slow it down.
Well, you know, And it's amazing, and really the whole country watched the teamwork as you progressed through this, and there was some drama around this, Representative. Can you share a little bit about what happened with the governor and any other hurdles that you may have faced as you worked through this bill?
Well, just putting the bill together, making sure that it was done well. It takes time to put, as you know, it takes a lot of time to put together a good bill. Bills are not birthed overnight. And this bill had a lot of input. Our Surgeon General had input on it. So we reached out and included a lot of folks. And I appreciate that. And I think that made the bill better. The process of running it through the committee process. Some of the folks that came and spoke on the bill, of course, they weren't interested in making the bill better. They were interested in killing the bill, and that's okay. That's part of the process too. But the bad information was incredibly wrong and creepy. One group put out that we were taking away health care from transgendered children. Who does that? That's totally opposite of what the bill does. It provides counseling and health care. The drug combination of puberty blockers and sex change hormones on an adolescent actually causes cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, stunting growth, infertility, and then also the big thing that you have to know, and this is real important for transgendered children and that population, it's 19 times higher suicide rate. That should make every American's heart stop. And why that isn't reported in the media is truly unprofessional. We should be all standing and waving our arms and saying, this is not right. But they cover that up. They leave that fact out. And that's unethical. And that's on us as a society to say, wait a second, these children are worth protecting. One of the things that kept coming out is that we're not seeing that population in the testimony from the bad guys on the other side. And I would say just the other side. But when you're wanting to cover up and spread lies, you're bad in my book. One of the things that I thought was interesting, Franklin Graham came out and did Tony Perkins and Family Research Council were phenomenal, and they came out and did a wonderful program on it. And so Franklin Graham spoke. At the same time, about it, just a day or two later, the Women's Liberation Front, which is a leftist extreme feminist organization, came out in support of the bill too. Which I never thought we'd see both those groups come together and say, protect children. You should be protecting children first. That should tell you how important it is to put politics aside and think about kids first. Pretty important.
Well, amen. And Governor Hutchinson vetoed the bill. And with one thing in particular, and I want you both to chime in here, but I think this kind of speaks for itself. The objection was there was no exception for minors who are currently on puberty blockers and hormones. And now I'm a person who's in recovery for addiction. I've been faced with a daughter who had life-threatening seizures when she was 9 months old, and they said they wanted to put her on barbiturates that would alter her brain at 9 months old every day for the rest of her life. Putting our faith in untested medicine is a serious thing, and just the governor saying that these are so dangerous, you got to take time to get off of them, I think kind of speaks for itself. But I wanted you both to chime in. Rep. Lundstrom, what did you think about that objection and how the bill covers it? And then Jerry, I'd like your opinion too.
The bill takes into account, I mean, you're under hopefully medical care, but you can transition off the medication. We don't want kids to stay on this. Remember, it's cerebrovascular disease. Why would you put somebody in that situation where we know there's going to be a health consequence? They're going to pay a tremendous price for staying on those drugs. They're not FDA approved. They don't need to be on this drug. So they can transition off. They have all the health care and counseling that they need. If somebody's at 17 and a half, probably they're going to get a prescription for the next 6 months, and they're going to make it to 18 and do what they want to anyway. We're not going to be looking in somebody's medicine cabinet. But if they're 13, they need to be off that medication. And here's the interesting thing. Their suicide rate goes down when they come off the medication. When they come off that combination of puberty blockers and sex change hormones, their suicide rate comes down. So we want them to see their doctor. We want them to be with a good counselor, and we want them to be healthy. And when they get to be 18, whatever decisions they make, that's their business.
You know, one thing I would say to people that are going to do this, just be prepared for the people on the left to lie about what you're doing. It doesn't really matter to them what the bill says. It's what they want it to say as far as their narrative is concerned. And so Representative Lundstrom is absolutely right. If they had read the bill and been real honest about it, they would have seen in the bill that it allows all kinds of therapies, except ones that are intended to change a person, try to change them from a male to a female or vice versa. It allows everything else. You can take hormones for precocious puberty, any other disorder that a person may have. It allows all that. But the narrative that they spun was that it would end all of that. And that's just simply not true. And the other thing is they kept saying, well, if these kids can't get this treatment, then they're going to kill themselves. Well, Representative Lundstrom is right. They do have a really high suicide rate. But guess what? Even among people that have completely transitioned from trying to change from male to female or vice versa, the suicide rate remains high, essentially the same. And we had 3 psychiatrists, we had pediatricians that all stood there and looked straight at the committee and said, this is how the science leads us. And everybody says, follow the science. That's exactly what we did. We followed the science. And it led us to this good law because it's based on good science, not on all this other stuff that's out there on social media. And I think the governor got sucked into that. And the corporate people were right in there with him on that. We know that. And unfortunately, he vetoed this very good bill. But the legislature just threw it right back. Within 24 hours, they had resoundingly overridden his veto. And that speaks to the resolve of our lawmakers and really to their character.
Well, the SAFE Act was clearly a landmark win for sure, but you've had a number of good policy wins in Arkansas. And I agree that this really, and thank you, Jerry, for pointing that out too, that I think what happens in this debate is people use 2 words that maybe they believe it or maybe they're just a crutch, and they say that there's hate or there's fear involved. And I know I've gotten to see the heart of Jerry Cox. I've gotten to see the heart of Representative Lundstrom and what they're doing here. And this is love for these children created in the image of God, who we have such a hope for their future that they'll get through this. And I really am grateful that both of you talked about this and that the science shows that this gives these children a chance to reduce that strain, that pain that they're going through, to the extent that it can be demonstrated that it reduces the suicide rate. So God bless you both in the work, and thank you for that. And now other states are looking at this, Jerry and Representative Lundstrom, but you've also had some other just amazing wins there, Jerry. You've been leading since 1989. You've seen a lot of these battles. Can you tell us more about some of the wins that you've had down there in Arkansas and how folks can get a hold of your organization and learn about what it took to pass this legislation and organize people to help Representative Lundstrom with her important work?
Well, first of all, I will say elections matter. If we did not have a really solid House and Senate here in Arkansas, then none of these good bills would have happened, because I didn't vote on a single one of them. Now, we helped craft them and we worked for them, but this year we were able to see the passage of what I believe is the nation's best medical rights of conscience law. And that has to do with doctors not being forced to do gender reassignment on children, not being forced to do abortions, on and on. And so it's a really good rights of conscience law. Right now, we have at least 10 or 12 pro-life bills that have either already passed or are on the verge of passing through our legislature. And so we're really optimistic that Arkansas will maintain its standing as the most pro-life state in the nation. But also we've worked on other areas like trying to prevent transactions between public schools and abortion providers like Planned Parenthood. And there's a really good bill that's working its way through the legislature right now that hopefully will prevent Planned Parenthood and other type organizations that perform abortions from being able to get into our schools and influence our children in an inappropriate way. So there are so many bills that are working their way through the legislature that I think we're going to see pass, but it's because we have a good legislature and we have people willing to stand up. Let me say this about the whole thing of the gender reassignment bill. If other states are interested in doing this, when you file this, there will be a lot of noise. There will be a lot of people saying a lot of bad things about you. What we were able to do here, and what I would advise anyone else to do, is just stay the course. Don't change the bill. Don't listen to all that noise. Just keep moving forward and keep doing what you know is right. And, you know, if you have that unconquerable resolve to get it done, then eventually I believe you will.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's a great reminder that all this stuff is connected. We're blessed to live in a country where we are, you know, the government of, for, and by the people. And that means that people of conscience are called to participate. And thank you for reminding us all that the elections do matter. But then when we have the leaders in place, like Representative Lundstrom, and by the way, the Family Council in Arkansas, you need to go check out this organization. Please, please, please support them in their work. They are a national leader. The Americans United for Life named them the most pro-life state in America, Arkansas, and that is largely because of the work of folks just like you. That if you're watching this, and please continue to comment and join us here. Let Jerry, let Rep Lundstrom know what you're up to. But check them out in Arkansas. They've done good work, pioneering work that we hope other states will follow. And they're you know, they have the shared goal of protecting children and helping them thrive. And I just want to talk briefly about something that we've worked together in, all three of us on this call, and that is a vision captured in the Promise to America's Children, which is a joint project of the Family Policy Alliance, Heritage Foundation, and Alliance Defending Freedom. The Promise outlines 10 principles to protect children's minds, bodies, and relationships with their parents. It's been endorsed by over 50 organizations, including the Family Council there in Arkansas. Thank you, Jerry. And it's been signed by many legislators, including Rep Lundstrom. Thank you for that. And I believe that it even has a resolution there in the Arkansas legislature. Rep Lundstrom, could you comment on your work with the Promise to Arkansas Children and the 10 principles that are captured in that?
I love it. It's a great bill. It was carried by a freshman who is an up-and-coming freshman, Josh Bryant, and we have a great freshman class. So all this does is it sets a parameter that all the agencies will follow it's kind of not a 10 commandments, but it's a resolution that everything that comes out of a state agency will follow these parameters, and they will be kid friendly. It sets a standard that says our kids are going to be treated in this fashion. They will be family friendly. It will be morality will be set. It sets a standard, and it codifies those standards and how our state agencies are going to function. So you can't really go off the reservation and add in politically correct and I like that, because we need to have our state agencies backing us as families and as parents, and not interjecting things that are politically correct. So I think it's a really good way to put down a marker that we want our state agencies to reflect good moral character. And when they're making policy, and you know from being a former speaker that lots of things happens in rules and regs, once the legislature leaves, things can go south. And some of the folks that work in state government are awesome, but also there are a lot of shenanigans that can go on too. And this says, no, not with our kids. So
you know what?
Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, what I find good about this Promise to the Children is the way these resolutions are written. And by the way, they both passed the House and Senate in resounding fashion. but it directs the heads of all these state agencies to provide this promise to the children, to all of the sub-agencies, all the way down. And so if they follow this, every public school teacher in the state of Arkansas will have this promise to the children. And it will be this stake that the legislature has driven in the ground and said, you know what? Bad forces are preying on our children, and we want it to stop, and it needs to stop now. And here's what we're going to do about it. And I want to see this promise then, much of it enacted into law, which it already is. Representative Lundstrom's SAFE Act is in that promise to the children. So is the Female Sports Act that deals with female sports and transgender individuals. So some of this we already enacted into law, and some of it we need to enact into law. But in the meantime, it's really good policy.
Yes. And I'd be remiss here if I didn't mention the Republican women actually put together a Dream Big agenda. And we actually got together and said, we're going to support each other's bills. And we put together about a list of, just a huge list of things that we thought would be awesome. And then we culled that list down to, here's what's really meaty and really important. And here are the things that we think absolutely have to get done. And then we went and included the guys on all this and said, here's where we want to go. Will you back us? And then they co-signed our bills with us. So this was a big team effort, and Jerry and Family Council and Family Research Council and everybody just jumped in. And this is a nationwide team effort. Nobody does this alone. So I can't thank you
That's
guys
right.
and Jerry and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's a team effort.
Well, and I need to point this out too. The governor has been roundly criticized for vetoing the SAFE Act. But I will say this, our governor has signed every pro-life bill that's come across his desk. He signed them all. And he signed a lot of other good legislation. And so I wish he had vetoed this one, but he did. But I want to also give credit that he signed a bunch of good bills, and we need to be really grateful for that.
Yes.
Well, I'll jump in too. I've known Governor Hutchinson through the years. I led prison fellowships advocacy for the past 9 years, and he's a good man. He is a follower of the Lord, and I just wanted to say that I agree with you there. Policy, we find that sometimes even if we're fighting out of the same corner, we see differently how to get there. But we at the Family Policy Alliance are grateful for the Family Council and for Rep. Lundstrom and all the leaders in the Arkansas legislature for setting an example of leading through those policy differences, not for a political gain, not to ring the bell, not just for a victory, but because of their passion for these children. And I want to just let our viewers here today know, please keep commenting, and there's a caption below that you can click on. If you haven't signed it already, come to promisetoamericaschildren.org and let us know. You can sign on as a parent. We want to remind our leaders, whether they're in government or the other institutions in our country, that parents are supposed to be raising our children, not our government, not our corporations, not TikTok or Instagram. And we should have a say in that about what's best for them as they navigate the difficulties of childhood and puberty and competition and sports and competing for grades and as they advance academically. The website at promisetoamericaschildren.org includes downloadable resources that will help you protect the children in your community, to encourage them to follow the lead of Rep. Lundstrom and the Family Council in Arkansas. And if I haven't made this clear already, you've got to check out what's going on down there in Arkansas. And I say down there because I'm reaching you from Michigan today. It's an amazing story in leadership. And is there anything the two of you want to join as we wrap up today's show? But I want to thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for having us. Come see Arkansas this summer. It's beautiful. And keep praying for us here. We could use all the prayers we can get.
Well, and I want to remind people something that my good friend Mike Huckabee said to me years ago. He said, Jerry, this political stuff and all that we are in, it's not an event. It's a process. and we are part of the process, and you have to view it that way, and you do all the good you can when you can do it. And we've had dry spells where it took us 10 years to get a pro-life bill passed. Now we have 10 pro-life bills passing in 1 year, so you'll figure.
Well, we'll keep praying. We'll keep supporting y'all. And on behalf of Family Policy Alliance and all of our audience out there, God bless both of you. And we hope to talk to you both soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.